Greetings. This is a briefing with the Admiral. I'm Admiral Owen Swart, Commanding Officer of the USS Dauntless, and the stardate is negative 268532.1. Briefing with the Admiral, and I am the Admiral in question. Today we're going to be talking about challenges, and I don't mean in the sort of general philosophical existential way of sort of these are the challenges we face in order to overcome whatever. I mean that might be an interesting topic for a video someday, but that's not the topic for today. We're going to be talking about a very specific dauntless thing called challenges. Before we move on, I want to greet those who are here. So far, we have Colonel Yubert and Chief Kotza. Thanks for joining us so far. We'll see if anybody else joins. Please feel free to drop any comments in the chat in the screening room in Discord if you're an active duty Dauntless crew member. Anybody else who might be joining us on the stream, you're welcome to drop us messages in the chat on YouTube. I'll do my best to pick those up from here. If you're only watching this later, feel free to drop comments on YouTube or Facebook or Discord or email, wherever. And I'll try to include any comments or questions you have in an upcoming episode as relevant. So let's talk about challenges. What are challenges? So in the previous video, we spoke a little bit about missions. Now, missions are discrete units of activity. So when we get together and we do a thing, whether we get together online here on Discord or whether we get together in the real world in our away teams out in places, those are missions where we gather at a specific time in a specific place, do a thing together, and then disperse. Those are missions, which is distinct again from the broader mission, which governs why we do all of the things that we do. But challenges are different from both of those in that they reflect activities that take a longer time. There's no specific definition for what constitutes a challenge, except that it's not a mission. It takes a longer time than a mission does, and it's typically engaged in as an individual crew member, as opposed to as part of a team or as part of a department or something like that. Each of us is invited to participate in a challenge as an individual member of the crew. Let's go to the challenges page on the website. There we go. Bear with me, I'm learning how to use new tools on my streaming software, so if it's a little bit glitchy, that's the reason. But so far, so good. All right, so let's take a look at this with our programs and projects page here on the Dauntless website. It's under Crew Resources, Programs and Projects if you want to follow along. We're just going to scroll past the Civilian Outreach Program. We'll cover that in a future video, but here we want to talk about challenges. So these are programs designed to allow the crew to challenge themselves and compete against each other in organized events that last longer than a single mission. These are typically undertaken by individual members as opposed to away teams or departments, and while winning is rewarded, participation is what is encouraged. So these are activities that take place over a prolonged period of time on a scale of, well, at the moment, most of them are occurring on a monthly scale, but then they also recur. So it's every single month. Some of them are that we've had in the past have been limited to a specific period of a month or 6 weeks or just a single week or something like that, where the activity are, where the crew members are each encouraged to participate in the relevant activity and then submit their results in some way. So that's another key aspect of what constitutes a challenge, is that you're doing the thing and then you're submitting to an organizing authority, whoever that might be, the fact that you've participated, the evidence that you've participated, the results that you've obtained. So we have three current ongoing challenges on board. I've mentioned all of these before, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about them now, so we can see how they all work and how they all fit together. The first is the Dauntless Fitness Challenge. So this is part of the aspect of mission readiness. There's another webinar uploaded a few weeks ago talking about mission readiness, which is all about promoting self-improvement in order to become the best possible Starfleet that each of us can be, the best possible Starfleet officer that each of us can be. And there are different aspects to doing that, one of which is physical. And the physical way you do that is through exercise. It's the obvious and logical and simplest way of doing that. And the fitness challenge is one of the ways that we encourage our crew members to do that kind of thing. How does that work? Well, it's undertaken by the medical department, which means it's the medical department's job to administer the fitness challenge. And it provides a friendly, competitive environment to help motivate crew members to become physically active and in doing so, improve their health. This is operated via StrideKick and Discord. It's actually a little more complicated than that. We can go across to, here's the medical resources page on our internal website. I usually don't show pages from our internal website here because they're there is occasionally sensitive or personal information here, but I've checked everything that we've gone through today, and I believe everything that is displayed on these pages is publicly visible. So that's just how that is. It should be fine. All right. So this is the tool set that the medical department uses to administer the fitness challenge. So first one, as I mentioned, is StrideKick, which is a mobile app. We also have an older version called Count.it, Count It, which was linked to our old communication platform, Slack. We had to move off Slack a couple of years ago for a variety of reasons, and because of that, we had to leave Count It behind, and we had to switch to StrideKick, which does basically the same job. Count It, although our Slack installation, our Slack workspace is still operational, we're no longer accepting new users there, and therefore Count It is no longer all that useful because it requires Slack for authentication. So now that we use Discord, we've had to find a separate third-party tool, and that is StrideKick. None of the tools that do this kind of thing are amazing, but they're all adequate. So we have to make trade-offs around various considerations, one of which is being cost, because we want to make sure that none of these things cost anything to use, either for our crew members or for the Dauntless itself. We're dependent on free tools, or tools that are so cheap they're basically free. So what is StrideKick? StrideKick is a mobile app that allows you to synchronize your steps to a central service. So your device, what we call a pad or a PerScan. A pad is a smartphone. A PerScan is a personal scanner, also known as a smartwatch or other fitness wearable device. Can be configured, and usually is by default, to log every step you take. So these devices have sensors in them that can track your movement, and they know when you've taken a step. If you set up your device correctly, then it can keep a record of all of the steps that you take and can then be uploaded to a server. Most of these apps come with a built-in app that does that kind of thing. It's usually something like Apple Health or Google Fit or Huawei Health or Samsung Health or something like that, some equivalent service. They all do basically the same thing. They provide a central repository for all of your steps. And most of those apps can be configured to then export those steps to third-party tools such as StrideKick. So I'm going to show you StrideKick on my device. Let's see if I could get this working. Here we go. Hey, that looks like that's working. Fantastic. All right, so this is StrideKick. So here on the control panel here, you can see those are my steps so far today, 4,620, which equates to roughly 3.4 kilometers and 88 minutes of activity. So the way we manage the challenge is not, as you might expect, through the challenges menu, although we'll get to that in a moment. We do it through the friends menu. So as the chief medical officer, who is at the moment me, I make sure that every member of the crew who's participating in the fitness challenge adds me as a friend on StrideKick so that I can see in my friends screen the number of steps that they've done. We can break this down by day, week, month, or year. We always look at the month view because that's the relevant one for our challenge. Our fitness challenge is done on a monthly basis. And here I can see that I'm at the top. I've done 887 steps so far this month. Captain Martin 220 has done slightly less than that. Chief Kotzer has done 44,000 odd, and so on. And there's another element to this, which is that oh, okay. There's an important thing. Welcome, Captain van Groenen. I see you in the chat there. He says lies. Yes. Well, okay. So this is an important consideration. iPhone users might be used to this, but it's quite unusual for us on Android. Is the consideration that this app, the StrideKick app, doesn't really work in the background. We expect it to synchronize our steps automatically in the background as we're logging them. So you're going through your day, you're walking around, and you're assuming that these steps are being synchronized in the background and that at the end of the month it's just going to happen. Unfortunately, that's not the case. StrideKick works like an iPhone app, which means it only syncs when the app is open. So I recommend that you set a reminder for yourself or an automation on your phone that opens the app once every few days so that you can give it a chance to synchronize. If you wait too long between synchronizing sync operations, synchronizations, whatever the correct noun of that is, if you wait too long between them, then it's going to lose some of the data and you're not going to have your correct steps reported. So you want to make sure you have some method for reminding yourself to log into that app, to open it up every few days to make sure that your steps are synced. A question that we often get from crew members is, what about crew members who have sedentary type jobs, or perhaps have some other kind of physical limitations that prevent them from doing a lot of steps. What else can we do instead? Well, that's one of the ways that StrideKick is great. You can go to the dashboard here when you log into the app, and if you hit this blue plus button, it actually allows you to convert other forms of physical activity into an equivalent number of steps. So I'm actually going to do this live for you now. This morning I hit the gym and I did about 35 minutes of weightlifting. So I'm going to select weightlifting from the menu. I'm going to select duration. It was about 35 minutes. There we go. That's today's date, the date of recording, and I'm going to click calculate, and then it converts that to an equivalent number of steps, kilometers, and minutes. I save that and it adds it to my total. So my total has now jumped to 7,665 steps, and so on. So you can do that with just about any kind of physical activity. They've got quite an impressive list of activities built into the app. You can just go through and find whatever activity you've done, or if they don't have the specific activity that you've done, you can find something that's close enough. You might have noticed that on my recent activities, you've got dancing listed there. I do some solo drills for HEMA, Historical European Martial Arts. It's kind of like fencing. And when I log that as a physical activity, neither HEMA nor fencing are listed on the list of activities. So the next closest thing I could find is dancing, because the physical activity is relatively close. So I'll select dancing as the option there, and that's close enough. So that's how we convert our non-step activities to steps. So if you have some kind of physical challenge, but you're doing something like Pilates or yoga or something like that, you can convert those activities to an equivalent number of steps. And that way you don't have a tiny little number on the ladder. You've got an impressive number like some of us do. All right, so that is StrideKick. I want to mention the challenges thing. Now, this is a little counterintuitive. You'd think that for a step challenge, we want to run a challenge. The challenges tool within StrideKick is it's an opt-in tool. We'd have to create a challenge and then invite every member of the crew to join the challenge every month. It can only last for up to a month. So as of now, that's not the optimal tool for the way that we operate our step challenge. We prefer to just use the friends leaderboard, but at some point in the future, if we felt like we needed to switch over to something a little different, it's nice to know that that's available to us there. All right, so that is StrideKick. Let's switch back to this. I just wanted to show you count.it. It still exists. You can see it's a very similar kind of idea. All of the different members of the crew all have their number of steps listed there. We can show it by month or by day or total or average or various different things like that. But problem is, again, it's linked to our old Slack workspace for authentication, and new members aren't being added to that. So all of our new members are invited to go over to StrideKick, where we can add you there. It's much, much easier for us to manage it there. What this means when we're running two systems in parallel like this is that the person operating the fitness challenge, who is the chief medical officer, who at the moment is me, has to then reconcile the total step counts on both platforms and then produce a unified result. That's not that complicated. I just have a spreadsheet that does that. It just means it's an extra 5 to 10 minutes work every month while doing crew evaluations. There is going to be a video in future about crew evaluations, but we've got a few topics we need to cover before we get to that. But that is how the fitness challenge is done. And then at the end of the month, when the monthly fitness challenge winner is obtained, selected, calculated, that's the right word. Once we know who the winner is for the month, we announce that internally on our Discord channel, usually in the gym. If you are participating in the fitness channel, you will have access to the gym channel in Discord, and then you'll be able to see who has won that challenge for the month. What happens then is that the winner of the challenge every month is awarded a commendation, typically on their promotion track, which then counts towards rank promotion. But everybody who participated also gets credit towards the Mission Readiness Award, which is granted annually to members who have made a significant effort in their attempt at self-improvement during the course of the year. So we want to make sure that participation is what's recognized above all, but there's a little extra something for those who are winning. That is the fitness challenge in a nutshell. This has been ongoing for several years now, and we expect to continue running it indefinitely. The next challenge of interest is the Dauntless Linguistics Challenge. Now, this is also a mission readiness challenge. In fact, all three of our challenges relate to mission readiness. But Dauntless Linguistics Challenge aims to assist self-improvement in a different avenue. Here, it's not about physical fitness, it's about mental fitness, and social fitness. And the way we do that is by helping and encouraging our crew members to learn as many different languages as possible. The more languages you can learn, the more languages you can use, the more people you can communicate with, which improves your ability to build and maintain social relationships, which are a key indicator in longevity and health into old age. Social relationships very important, and linguistics, at least being able to speak different languages, helps you in building and maintaining those. So how do we do that? It's undertaken by the science department. That the Linguistics Challenge provides a friendly, competitive environment to help motivate crew members to learn a new language, operated via Duolingo. So Duolingo is a free tool that allows you to learn languages online. It works kind of like a game. You create an account for free, and you select which language or languages you're interested in learning, and then it provides a sequence of lessons for you to do that. Every lesson that you complete, you earn experience points, XP, which then adds up to a total. There are lots of fun prizes and challenges in game, but we have added an additional layer onto the existing gamified nature of Duolingo, and that is the Dauntless Linguistics Challenge, where we use a tool that they have called Duolingo Classrooms. Obviously, the tool is built for schools or universities. We don't use it quite in that way. What it does for us is it provides a unified leaderboard so that we can, kind of like the step challenge, look at all of our different crew members who are participating in the challenge and see who has logged the most XP for the month. So here we go. This is what our leaderboard looks like. I'm going to make sure that it's ranked by XP. So this is a period of this week. So the last few days, we've got Bonjour Pond, who is at the top there with 275 XP, having spent 21 minutes learning. Gordon Reed at 165 XP, 31 minutes. Nicholas at 51 XP, and so on. So I've only spent 1 minute on Duolingo so far this week, but the week is not the time frame that we look at for the linguistics challenge. Like the fitness challenge, we look at it monthly. So I'm going to show you on custom dates. If I select the entire month, obviously the month is not yet over. What is today's date? Today is the 23rd, so we can only have it from the 1st until the 23rd. There we go. And there we see the monthly tally. Bonjour Pond still in the lead, 3,666 XP, having spent over 3.5 hours learning languages so far this month. The rest of us have some catching up to do. So this works in pretty much the same way. So the chief science officer at the end of the month logs into this dashboard, tallies up these, well, there's no calculation required here. We can simply look at who has produced the most XP, take a screenshot of that, drop it in the linguistics channel in Discord. Again, if you're participating in the linguistics challenge, you have access to the linguistics channel in Discord. And the winner of the monthly challenge typically receives, again, a commanding officer commendation for doing so, which counts towards rank promotion in the future. But all participants are logged. If you have accrued any more than 0 XP, if you've done even one lesson, you are logged as having participated, which counts towards that mission readiness award at the end of the year. So monthly challenge, but it also stacks up to be annual as well. So it works otherwise pretty much the same as the fitness challenge. And then there is a third one, which is the combat training program. This is undertaken by the security department. The combat training program provides a friendly competitive environment to help motivate crew members to engage in personal combat training. This is operated via Discord. So this one's a little bit more complicated from an administrative point of view, because there are a lot of concerns around what constitutes combat training. So the idea behind this is similar to the other two. We want to be able to encourage Dauntless crew members to engage in combat training, but what does that look like? So, well, first of all, why combat training? So combat training, learning any kind of physical combat system, not only is a good workout physically, kind of like the running or walking is, but it does more for you than just that. It also creates a sense of awareness of your body in space. The more that you learn a physical combat system, if you hold in your mind something like martial arts or even target shooting, something like that, it teaches you an awareness of where the parts of your body relative to each other and relative to the world. And that is of vital importance when you are learning how to be a better person, be stronger, be more capable in the world. You need to understand how your body is moving through space. But it also goes one step further than that, which is about learning how your to become an agent in the world in a physical sense, how you can project physical force, uh, or project your will, that is, through the medium of physical force onto other people and onto objects around you in a way that has an effect. Learning your capabilities, your limits, as an agent of force within the physical world. That's a very important aspect, I think, psychologically speaking, is understanding just how capable you are of influencing the physical world around you. And combat training does that in a way that most other physical training systems don't do. And there's a third aspect to it, which I think is possibly the most important component to learning physical combat systems. And this doesn't apply to all combat systems. Things like archery and target shooting don't teach you this, unfortunately. Probably the best one is something like boxing, and that is how to take a punch to the face and not lose your cool. Um, Very, very important life skill, being able to take an assault either in a physical or an emotional sense, um, soak it up, and be able to operate even despite having that intense emotional state within yourself. How to govern yourself in such a way that you can take that hit to the nose and still be effective in the rest of the fight. And that is that and that is very valuable. Captain von Krunen says, as long as it is not the nose. Well, unfortunately, sometimes it is the nose, and that's the key. Is there's something physical and visceral about being punched in the nose, which incites an emotional response that is very difficult to resist. But if you are one of the people who study that particular kind of physical combat system, learning how to take a punch in the nose and not lose your cool is a very valuable life skill. I don't do boxing. I don't do that kind of martial arts. As I mentioned, I am a fencer. I'm a swordsman, and we wear big, heavy protective masks so that we don't take hits to the face. But we do sometimes take pretty painful hits to other parts of the body. And while it might not be the nose, it is still a valuable lesson. Learning how to take a painful hit without losing your cool. Right, so how do we operate the combat training system? This is, again, a little bit more complicated. First, we need to define what constitutes a combat system and what doesn't. So we are clear that it has to be a physical combat system, and it can't have too many layers of abstraction. So something that is simulated combat, something like rugby or soccer, is a very abstracted form of physical combat simulation, and it's too abstract. There's no direct combat involved there, at least there shouldn't be if you're following the rules. Something like a first person shooter video game, also the physical aspect of that is not sufficient to qualify as a physical combat system. But again, something like target shooting or archery definitely would, because you are physically engaged in the activity and you're physically directing the force of your body out into the world. The obvious ones that definitely qualify are martial arts, karate, kung fu, taekwondo, jeet kune do, and even some of the more sportified or even dancified martial arts, things like Taibo. I don't know if anybody still does Taibo, but back in the day, that was something of a fad where it was um, uh, sort of Taekwondo worked into an aerobics routine. But you did actually learn some fighting skills, so that would definitely have counted as a combat system. Also, if you're learning sort of combat adjacent physical skills, things like uh, security training, how to clear a room or something like that, even though you're not physically operating a weapon in that space, you are learning skills that are associated with how to use a weapon. So things like paintball or airsoft, those all teach you the relevant skills surrounding operating a weapon, even if you're not physically using a real weapon. So they are abstract, but they're not so abstract that it completely divorces you from the physical act of combat. Now, there's a broad variety of these various different combat systems with various layers of abstraction. And if you're not sure if your preferred combat system qualifies as combat training or not, I invite you to seek the counsel of the chief security officer, and they can assist you on figuring out whether or not your combat system qualifies. But how do you log your participation? Well, the only universal method that applies to all combat systems is the amount of time that you spend on it. So you, as a participant in the combat training program, the way that you log your participation is once you've done your training session for the day, you make a record somewhere of how many minutes you spent training and what it was you were training. So, for example, let me show you. I spent some time training. It wasn't this morning; it was yesterday. I was doing my HEMA training, historical European martial arts, backsword and longsword solo drills while I was at the gym. So I used Google Fit, which is one of the fitness tracking apps on my phone, to record the fact that I spent 20 minutes and 2 seconds doing my HEMA solo drills. It logged me 19 heart points, whatever that means. And then I was able to take a little selfie of myself in the mirror and post that to the combat training channel in Discord. That is what is needed to log that participation. So if you've performed any kind of combat training activity, just make a note of what system it was you were training, perhaps with a little bit more detail if you can, ideally with some kind of photographic evidence of what you've done, and most importantly, how long you spent doing it. The chief security officer at the end of the month will then tally up all of the time spent on everybody's respective combat training systems, and whoever spent the most time will then win that commanding officer's commendation. So those are the three ongoing um, challenges that we operate currently on the Dauntless. But we do sometimes collaborate with external third parties, specifically within Starfleet International, that are also running similar kinds of challenges. And we want to, from time to time, participate in those. So let's look at a couple of those so you can see what other kinds of challenges exist in Starfleet. So Starfleet Medical have been doing this, have been hitting the challenge thing pretty hard lately. So they've been setting a good example to the rest of us about what these challenges could look like. So at the moment, they're operating the Starfleet Medical Reading Challenge, which is, I'm not going to read through this word for word, but essentially, if you are a member of Starfleet International, or specifically a member of the Starfleet Medical, you can sign up, you can join the challenge, and then you submit the number of pages that you've read. So you read books, any books that you like, any kind of books, and you submit the number of pages that you've read via a form or via a spreadsheet, I think it is, which then is submitted to the organizers of the challenge on a regular basis. I believe it's monthly. And then you will then get the appropriate credit for having participated. They have a cool thing where if you are reading Starfleet manuals or Star Trek books, so that's novels or nonfiction books about Star Trek, those count double, which is pretty cool. So that's an ongoing challenge, and you get, I believe, they send out certificates to recognize those who've participated. They also famously run the step challenge because, as with us, they consider steps as being something within the neighborhood of medical. So they have these step challenges where if you have a regional chief medical officer, which we currently don't have, but if we did have one, we would, each chapter within the region would submit our steps to our regional deputy chief medical officer, who would then send those on to the fleet-wide step challenge so that we could participate as a ship. And then again, we get chapter and individual certificates for participation in these kinds of things. Pet Fleet also has, until fairly recently, been operating some similar challenges. I believe they had a step challenge, with the idea being that you participate with one of your non-human Pet Fleet crew members. I don't think they're running it this month, but they do from time to time, and that's a cool thing that they do as well. The Starfleet Marine Corps has a long history of running challenges, although theirs are a little bit different. They also do a reading challenge similar to the Starfleet Medical one. They have the Commandant's Challenge, which recognizes Marines who participate in a specific kind of charity organization. They also they have, let's see, where's the next one? Oh, the Wilderness Challenge. When you get out camping and you do something hard and challenging, then you can submit your candidacy for the Wilderness Challenge. That's very cool. These are quite detailed, so if you're interested in participating in the Marine Corps challenges, I recommend you head over to sfmc.sfi.org and see how all of that works. If you're a Dauntless crew member and you have interest in setting up a mission that would allow us to work towards one of these challenges, then that would be great. That's one important thing I wanted to just cover before we end this. Managed to keep this one relatively brief. And that is when it comes to the crossover between challenges and missions as a Dauntless crew member. So missions, again, are discrete activities that happen within a specific day, and challenges are long activities that take place over time. Although the two typically don't have anything to do with one another, there's no reason why they can't cross over. There's nothing stopping you as a Dauntless crew member from setting up a mission that would allow you and your teammates to participate in one or more of these challenges. So, for example, if you decide to set up an away team for your it's a away mission for your away team that can then go and visit a paintball range or an axe throwing range or something like that together, then you can all get some credit for participating in the combat training challenge. Or if you want to have a linguistics study night where you all gather together and play some Duolingo together, or even collaborate on some Duolingo challenges or something like that, that would be acceptable too. And of course, the park run events that some of our away teams participate in regularly would also allow you to log some steps. And that's very cool as well. So strongly recommended that you do all of those things. There's no reason why we can't implement additional challenges. Although we don't have a formal system through which crew members can recommend new challenges, if you have an idea for a specific challenge, I welcome you to pop me a message on Discord and we can chat about your idea and we can see if it's something that is viable. Speak to the appropriate department heads and see what we can get going there. That would be very exciting to add to our catalog of ongoing challenges and provide more options for our crew members. All right, I'm not going to keep going on this forever and ever. I've had some feedback that these videos are getting a little bit too long, and I definitely agree. The intent with these videos is always to keep them short, preferably under half an hour, and I see we've just gone over half an hour with this one. So I'm going to keep it to a minimum. I don't see any additional questions. I just want to thank again Captain Van Groenen, Colonel Joubert, and Chief Kotze for joining us in the screening room. Everybody else, you're welcome to drop us comments or messages after the fact on YouTube or Facebook or our new TikTok channel or anything like that. If you'd like to get us a message, that would be great. Unless there's anything else happening, I think we're going to call it a day. That's it for now. Swart out.